And we're back Monday morning, June 16th, all day. What's going on, Glenn?
Good. Happy Monday. How was the weekend?
It was a pretty solid one. It was as good a weekend as it could be where I have to go to Wrigley Field.
Yep. Okay. That'll do it. Actually, yeah, my boys were out there too.
Nice. Yeah.
Saturday.
I saw a lot of, I was there on Saturday. A friend of mine is getting married, and he's getting married, and he didn't want to do like a bachelor party thing, and the only thing that like our group of friends could muster up was a bachelor day.
Nice.
So just like brunch in a Cubs game,
Sure.
and then just like grilling at his parents' place afterwards, which is like it was
good.
nice. And I don't, as someone who is gonna get married soon and doesn't want to do anything, I don't want to even do that. If
Right.
someone's like, "Oh,
Bachelor day.
surprise! Like we're going to the Chicago Fire game," I'm just gonna be like, "Dude, I just got sick. Actually, I can't." But it was kind of funny, the idea of like 3 or 4 weeks ago, we went to Omaha for another friend in our friend group, his
Whole
bachelor
weekend.
party, and it was whole weekend. It was like dinners, like we're going to fire weapons at this crazy place, and like all of this thing, 48 hours. And I just couldn't help but think this whole time, like, does he feel less than? And also, I mean, our friend group is very, I will say, mean.
Oh.
And
okay.
so it was
Sure.
said explicitly that he doesn't rank high enough to
get a weekend?
to warrant a weekend. And so
That's
it was
pretty funny.
but it was fun. Dude, the Cubs fans are the worst. They've always been
All
the
right.
worst. Oh, always. There's like we're in the bleachers, which is also just like if you want to see the worst Chicagoans, maybe worst Americans, bleachers at the Cubs game. They're stacking cups the whole time.
God
have you
forbid
seen?
people have a good
Have you
time.
seen that? God forbid they watch the game. What are we? What are we here for? The whole time. And I don't, trust me, I don't care about the game at all. So I'll take it.
So
but the whole time, like,
You had a cup stack
the game
that
is
was
going
not as big as their cup
the
stack.
game is going on. No, but that is probably a very real thing. The game is going on this way, let's
Yep.
say, and the whole time our 10 guys are like this, like, oh yeah, like what about you remember when Andrew hooked up with what's her name? Like, yeah, that was hilarious. And it's like no, and then finally it's like 1 out in the 9th inning, and then everyone stands up and they're
Lock
like,
in.
oh yeah, like time to watch. It was awful, and yeah, there are multiple sections where they're stacking cups. And there's one dude who's like, it's my baby's first Cubs game, and he's hammered. And he's like, look at my baby's touching the cups, like blah, blah, blah. And I was like, this is like this is what society is. This is like, this is what we're here. We're not even here for really, I don't think, if we're being honest, the game. We're here for grown men to get as drunk as possible and then stack the cups and then measure. It's like that section's cups, they're getting too big, like we gotta stack more
And
of
this
them.
is not allowed, right? Like they'll take the cups down.
They came over multiple times and like we're like, you can't be throwing the cups, like blah blah blah. and like
That, I think, is
and
the
of course
funniest
like
part.
the dudes, it's like there's like a 35-year-old dude in town from Pittsburgh who's like taking a video of the woman like yelling at them for stacking the cups, like,
Can't
oh,
do
isn't this
that.
hilarious?
Yeah.
Like I'm putting this on Instagram, and it's like this is the dumbest exercise of all time, and this is why I guess I don't go out. A lot of people say, like people who smoke cigarettes will say like, oh man, I'm growing up in the wrong time. Like I wish I was growing up in like the 50s. Like I could be ripping darts anywhere. and I am starting to think like, since going sober, a lot of society just doesn't make it doesn't make sense to me
So maybe
anymore.
you're too early. Alcohol sales declining.
Are
They think permanent decline.
We're in permanent decline.
Yeah, we'll never be as rowdy as
I hope so.
we have been.
I hope so. I mean,
But
it's,
I mean, there's
it's
still a
hard for-
baseball game.
It's hard. Can you make, as an alcohol drinker, can you make a bull case for alcohol's effect on just society at large? Like, what is the
No, it's a
what are
tough-
the instances of like alcohol actually played a good role in this?
Sister's baby shower this weekend. took me a White Claw to loosen up a little bit around her coworkers.
That is the one thing that, like, although I'm kind of it's been more than 3 years at this point, so I'm pretty far away from it. But the one thing is, we sit down for brunch, and the first 10 minutes is the most awkward thing of all time.
So
even though we're like good friends,
for years,
it's still just like everyone's kind of like, oh yeah, like, and like one of them's like, yeah, I just had my second kid, and it's like no one actually cares about that. And so like,
unless you're bringing him to the Cubs game,
Yeah.
unless he's touching Cubs, it's not fun.
not even a legend. He's just at home with his mom. Like,
So lame.
So yeah, I will give the icebreaker thing
Yeah.
is the only thing. But then my retort would be like,
Just grow up.
we'll just grow up, but also like, do we have to be doing those things?
All right, you're going full just no interaction.
It gets so extreme that it's just like weddings. Do we need to have them?
Come on, love always wins.
I agree with you. I can't, trust me. I'm in deep psychoanalysis and therapy work to get away from that extreme of just like, Frank goes to work, he makes the money, and then he comes home and he plays with it on the internet and doesn't talk to anybody. But yeah, that's what I did. The Cubs, they won 2-1. It was they got a guy in center field. He's got 2 names. Everybody loves him.
PCA.
He's got like red shoes. I tried to watch the U.S. Open yesterday. It was awful, so bad. Did you enjoy it?
I didn't watch that much. It was fun when Tiger was on.
I was gonna say the best part of the broadcast was oh man, is that Tiger? And Kelly's like, Tiger's in the tournament, and I was like, I don't think so. And then they showed the stretch where he just like eagled like 4 holes.
Yep.
It's just
So
insane. And then they went back, and it's like, here's 5 guys you've never heard of, and it's raining.
And it's
like,
tied.
Okay.
It's a good ending though.
Yeah, it was a cool ending, but it was just usually I like this guy's up by 3 strokes and he just totally fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
But
Had a lot of those.
This one wasn't so much fun because the guys were literally just like, there's a pool around my ball, like I can't
move
hit it.
No.
No, you can't move it. And then he just like
Shanks it.
I wish I could have moved it. But yeah, that's it. Wait, sister's baby shower.
Yeah.
Okay, how was that?
It was pretty good. She had more friends than I thought.
That's pretty good.
I know. Proud of you, sister. Good job. But it was very chill. Indoor, outdoor, little grill action.
Nice.
She used statistics professor, so they had their games were a normal bell curve of baby weight with her and her husband's weight at birth, and it was like guess the weight, what the baby will be. And then some AI generated photos.
AI generated photos of the child.
Based on parent photos. Guess what it'll look like. She will look like. What else? Yeah.
I'm not a big like what's the idea where like you don't jinx things, where it's like people
Murphy's Law.
No, I'm not a big like don't count your chickens before they hatch kind of thing. But like that would, when I have a child, in anticipation of the child coming, having AI generate a bunch of photos of it would kind of freak me out.
Yeah. Ooh, you are not like the pictures. This was not on our bingo card.
But that's cool. Good for her.
Yeah.
Congrats. When's the baby coming?
August.
I don't actually care. Let's get into the platform.
First Cubs game is going to be August as well. Just straight from the hospital to Wrigley Field.
That's sick.
Touch some cups.
Holding the baby.
Yep.
The baby's trying to touch the cups, and you're trying to take an Instagram video for like, I don't know who thinks that's cool or fun.
Everybody thinks it's cool.
But some wacky action last night.
Yeah.
A lot of unchanged we're seeing now, but we did have, I don't know if you want to look at Eurodollar, Aussie, or what. You had
Time for them all.
You had the risk off open, and and was just talking with our friend Peter about equities and crude. Obviously, if you were watching crude last night, the open was pretty wacky, and you can see here Eurodollar trades like 30, 40 points lower. And then there's a little back and forth, and now we are completely in the other direction. Of course, I'm referencing the escalating war in the Middle East between Israel and Iran, and all of the missiles and missile defense, everything that was going on over the weekend, leading to, like I say, risk-off action for a couple of minutes. And it kind of begs the question here in 2025. I understand why we do it, because there is like the tail risk of like, okay, and now it is World War III, and like now everybody is in this war. But I think back to so many events, and of course, we're talking markets here. I have no interest in talking politics, although a lot of my friends over the weekend, they are Jewish American, and there was a lot of stuff said, and thankfully, as an Irish guy, I just kind of was like, those are all interesting points that you're all warranted to have. But you look at all these events, whether it's the Arab-Israeli conflict of the last 100 plus years, or I always think of like the awful Paris attack of a couple of years ago that happened on like a Saturday or whatever it was. And then I was trading at the board of trade. I think I don't know where I was at that point. I was doing something in markets, and the market opened risk off Sunday night after that attack for like literally 10 minutes. And again, I understand that like there's the edge case of any of these terrorist attacks or these in hindsight, what are end up viewed as like one-off kind of events, becoming something bigger. But it is kind of crazy that crude oil just like opens 76 bid and then is immediately annihilated. Yeah. And it's just like, why are we even doing it? And also crypto was down significantly all weekend. Right. And then like the market kicks in on Sunday night, and then by this morning, like everything is up. Of course it could go the other direction, but I just can't help but call out the fact that like we have seen this so many times now. You would think in 2025, so much news aggregated constantly. AI is predicting everything. It's predicting your sister's child. And we can't predict like the first couple minutes of an open after some risk off sentiment from the weekend. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I agree. But when we're looking, I definitely hear what you're saying in terms of like equities, U.S. equities in specific, just because, how much of an impact will that have? Maybe none in the long run even. But here looking at these two-sided markets, what is surprising to me is that even with any sort of risk-off tone, even when that goes away, doesn't necessarily mean the euro has to bolster against the dollar here. Sure. And so a surprising run-up close to 116 again, and this U.S. dollar really not having a ground to stand on, even though we had 30 points open. That's about it. You could make the case that even if risk-off sentiment in other markets dissipated, that this U.S. dollar could still make up some ground, gain some traction against this inflated euro-dollar market, as we've seen over the past, just since June, all the way from 113 to near 116. And so it is kind of surprising to me that there really aren't that many dollar buyers in this market, regardless of the risk sentiment.
Yeah, that's a good call out. In this market and in the pound market, it is hard right now to make a bull case if you're just looking at the price action for the U.S. dollar. Because to your point, there have been a handful of instigators, I'll say, instigating events for a US dollar bid in the last couple of weeks, and each of them are sold into, or if you're looking here at the euro dollar market, each dip in this market has been bought pretty heavily.
Right.
And last night, yeah, they could only do so much damage. And of course, remember that in Forex, when something like geopolitical risk heightens, you tend to look at currencies as kind of a spectrum of risk. And you might see, especially with if it's Middle Eastern geopolitical risk heightening, the countries surrounding that area that are closer or that have closer political ties, those currencies might get hit harder than other currencies. And then you it's a hodgepodge of putting them together, right? And so with this story, as well as the Russian-Ukrainian war of the last few years, it has tended to be risk higher, euro lower.
Right.
And U.S. dollar seeing a little bit of a flight to quality against a handful of currencies, but for example, not necessarily U.S. dollar seeing a flight to quality against Swiss franc or Japanese yen, because those tend to be on the risk spectrum more risk off. Those might tend to be more of a flight to quality than your U.S. dollar. Maybe bring up that Swiss franc, because I was going to say,
because this one is kind of contradictory to what we're seeing in other markets for risk off sentiment lifting. Here, I mean, we've got in the hourly chart, we had no real gap.
No reaction.
U.S. dollar, similar to that euro, starting to capitalize into the night once Europe comes in, taking it all the way back down, and now a bit of a mixed bags, but unchanged from where we were Friday, and that was after, getting beat up pretty bad into Thursday, a slight rally into Friday, but I mean, taking in more data, we're still from Wednesday on.
Another case of just U.S. dollar in the grand scheme of things, and I do think about the long-term political environment in the U.S., and I'm not trying to make any case for like Trump is this or that, or like tariffs, oh my gosh, they're crazy. But the guy has said that he wants a cheaper dollar, and he has now done multiple things and is literally heckling a person who has, access to certain levers that can weaken or strengthen the U.S. dollar. And you look at this price action, Glenn, and it just looks like this U.S. dollar does not want to bounce back no matter what the event is. I mean, I wouldn't have necessarily thought the Swiss franc would be a market that dollar is going to bounce back in, given that I would think Swiss franc would get a bid if the geopolitical risk over the weekend was taken into this week even more seriously, which it has not been digested that way by markets. So this is a weird one. Let's look at dollar yen, because that is one where we have seen a little bit of a dollar rally in the first few hours of this week, as well as the fact that we closed last week back closer to the highs than the lows, which is, again, 145 being the highs in this market. And then if you're looking at the last couple of weeks, really 140 to 142 being the lows. It's this one very dissimilar to that euro dollar market or that dollar Swiss franc market, whatever, or the pound, that the dollar has been able to retain some strength against this yen market, not trading near multi-year or decade-long lows like the Swiss franc. An interesting one, and this one, in my mind, though it seemingly has very little to do with Israel and Iran, this is the best back and forth that we've seen, no matter what the news story is.
Right. Yeah. I mean, similar story on this open where U.S. dollar really can't sustain any momentum. I don't know. It just sets the tone for the week. It's a Fed week here. We already sometimes can see some consolidated markets leading up to an event like that. So how does that set the stage for Monday, Tuesday with this geopolitical risk as a backdrop? I'm not too certain, but I think it would take, we'll see volatility come in most likely unless we see some big news that would spur the U.S.
In the next
dollar.
48 hours, you're saying,
Correct.
leading up to FOMC.
I don't think we have anything slated from any other region that makes any of these dollar pairs all that interesting, except for if there is a dollar component.
Take a look at some of the commodity currencies.
Australian dollar, this one is one where we saw the swiftest move taken out of it from the onset of the geopolitical tensions in the Middle East. Here, just a 1 hour candle to take us all the way back under 65 cents, close to 64.5. And now this morning, the most momentum here in this Australian dollar as risk.
Yeah, this is interesting. This, I think, is probably the reason that this is the biggest mover has to be an equity story to me. Just because SPOOs are going to open up 50 points and everything's going to open up higher. I would imagine China's going to open up higher as well. Just given this action, I haven't taken a look, but this is an interesting one, and I can't help but call out because we've had some people. It's funny, the people have the most opinions, it seems, on this Aussie than anything. If when people are emailing in, it seems like they really have opinions of this Aussie, which is funny just because it's been so kind of boring to me, but good for those people, and especially good for them because I've heard multiple people call out last week when it got up above 65 cents, oh, this Aussie seems expensive. In the back of my mind, I'm like, think about the last several years of Aussie price action. I'm like, man, 65, I wouldn't step in front of it, but I'll be damned if this market, every time it gets, some legs above 65 cents, gets whacked back down below it. Not the biggest range here. We just looked at dollar yen, and that's, a 500-point range in the last week or so. And this is a market that's moved from 64 half, not even. And so this is an interesting one, but this one seems more equity tied because I can't imagine why the hell this would be rallying like this going into our open. Maybe there is some Australian news that I'm missing. Probably. I'm always missing something.
But yeah, this one definitely close to an interesting price level. If we get above 65.30 here, that is the high going back to, you've seen this as a resistance level numerous times over the past few weeks here. Last thing I do want to call out, Israeli shekel.
Oh, yeah.
Directly available here. A much harder one, I'd say, to make heads or tails of, but we have seen extreme two-way price action.
You should have led with this. We could have, just because you can see very clearly that big red candle that is last night on the open. Oh wait, I guess I'm looking at Friday.
This is Thursday. The outbreak.
It's not even that interesting actually.
But we do have pretty sustained momentum in the Israeli dollar or Israeli shekels.
Risk kind of leaving this market.
But we're past where we were now.
Sure. But you can see, the big price action was on Friday. I mistook that for Sunday because I would have thought that candle right there would have been Sunday night, where it's like dollar opens way higher against Israeli shekel and then just immediately gives it back throughout the rest of the night. But that's actually Friday afternoon where you saw the big rally in dollar, and then you saw the sell-off in dollar actually before we even closed on Friday afternoon. But yeah, you're seeing still escalated levels. Obviously, the risk is not off the table in this story or in any of these markets, but it is alleviating here going into the first U.S. session of the week. And it'll be an interesting week. Yeah, we have FOMC on Wednesday. We'll cover all of that tomorrow and Wednesday. But yeah, you want to get us out of here?
Yeah, that'll do it for us here on Forex Focus to start the week. But stay tuned. Up next, we got Tom, Tony, and Vanetta on Tasty Live.
Global markets never sleep. Explore them with Forex, now available on tastytrade. Get in on over 80 Forex pairs, 24 hours a day, 5 days a week, with the Forex platform that adapts to your style and speed. FX marks the spot. Trade it on tastytrade.
You can get up to $4,000 when you open and fund a new account with tastytrade. That's 4,000 buckaroos, 4,000 bills or clams, 4,000 in dough or cheddar, not the cheesy kind. 4 large, 4K, 4 grand, which is no small thing. Open and fund a new tastytrade account and get on the platform for traders who just want to trade. And did we mention a bonus of up to 4,000 smacker